What's up guys, Somebody77 here, and I'm here to read you another scary story. Now, this one's a little bit different. I got an email from my first subscriber, STRL0011, I believe. I wish I could actually pronounce that, but I wanted to actually thank you very, very much because I got an email from her and she sent me this scary story. She said she loves my work and she loves the way I read these, so I am more than happy to actually read this story that she wrote for me, which is pretty awesome. I'm beside myself actually. It's kind of cool. As always, if you are not in the mood for a scary story, by all means go to my next video or my previous video depending on when I got this up. But if you guys are in the mood for a nice little scary story, let's get to it. Heartbeats. Do you have a fear of dying? Of course you do, at least at one point in your life. Google comes back with over 57 million hits about it. It's a natural phenomenon, an evolutionary trait built into our genetic code that helps us stay safe and not to take too many risks. The fear is normal, sane, and healthy. So, have you ever had a fear of dying in your sleep? That fear is a little bit more specific, more based on phobia than a natural instinct. Google that and you get around 16 million hits. Still a fairly normal fear. Now, have you ever had a fear of your heart stopping? This fear is not that common. Google came back with 1 million hits. Well, that may not sound like a lot, but remember that there are 7 billion people in the world. It sounds a lot smaller, doesn't it? I know it's strange, because that's my fear. For as long as I can remember, I've always had a fear of listening to my heartbeat fade away. Every night, I would stay awake for hours, listening to my heartbeat quicken and slow, depending on the level of my panic. Whenever I finally managed to fall asleep, it did no good because I knew the same thing would happen the next night. Every day, I lived in dread of the sun going down because I knew that I would have to lay in my bed and listen to my faint but so precious heartbeat thump away in my chest. I've come to accept my quiet mania. I've learned to work around it. I promised myself that if I counted no less than 500 heartbeats, then I could allow myself some sleep. Whatever comes, may come. I haven't died yet. I am fairly young and reasonably healthy. There is no reason for my heart to suddenly stop. I awake every morning feeling a little sillier about my fear. Then, one night, I couldn't hear my heartbeat. I was at a point in my life where I could count the heartbeats subconsciously. It was actually kind of soothing, sort of like how one counts sheep before going to bed. I remember the exact number my heart gave right before the last beat of life. 143. I remember it because it was a number my family exchanged often in our conversations. Each number corresponded with the number of letters in the saying, "I love you." It actually is a little sweet in a morbid way. My heart said it loved me, but it was done. I remember telling myself not to panic. Often, as I slept closer to sleep, my heartbeat gets softer to the point I have to hold a few fingers to my wrist to make sure it was still there. I waited just to prove to myself that I was freaking out over nothing and could get some sleep. No beats came. I held a few fingers to my wrist. Nothing. There was nothing. I dug my fingers into the side of my neck to feel for a pulse. Nothing. There was no heartbeat under my fingertips. Otherwise, I felt normal. I could still move, still push air in and out of my lungs, still think. Maybe this was just a really weird dream, and I'll wake up soon. I'll feel my heartbeat again, and I'll take some heavy-duty sleeping pills for the rest of my life. I ignored the branches tapping against my window. It must have been a windy night. I lay in bed for a few more hours, unsure of what to do. I wasn't tired. Who would be? My mind was oddly blank as it faced my oldest and most persistent fear. What was I gonna do? I closed my eyes, trying to will myself to sleep in hopes that this stupid nightmare would end. I lay very still and held my breath as I remembered there are no trees near my window. Something else caused the noise outside. Something big and something with purpose. The tapping was significantly louder and rattled my window pane. I felt a chill down my spine and shut my eyes tighter. My fingers were still glued to my neck, trying in vain to find any sign of life as I listened to something banging against my window. Why isn't my mother coming in? Why is no one else hearing this? I couldn't take it anymore and cracked open my eyes just barely to see what was at my window. My eyes opened all the way in shock. There was a thing outside my window, but there was no way that could be. My room is on the second floor and there's no balcony to stand on. It was just floating there perfectly still. It was a tall creature with a long canine face and ears. Its splotchy skin was loose and wrinkly, like it barely attached to any muscle underneath. It was as thin as it was tall, showing emaciated ribs and a hollow belly. In its chest there was a pulsing heart that pushed gently against the skin. I clenched my teeth at the violent impulse to gag at that disgusting pulsing organ in his chest. Eyes bright gold, it smiled wide when it saw that it got my attention. Its grin stretched open wide, too wide, and pulled at its face. God, it had so many teeth. Too many teeth. They crowded over each other. Its grin stretched from ear to ear, and still it didn't show all of its teeth. It leaned down a little and tapped lightly on the window, pointing at the latch, looking hopeful. Numbly, I shook my head no. My trembling fingers still held at my throat, but I still felt nothing. Its wide smile twisted into a horrendous frown, lips shredding over the rows and rows of teeth. Blood gushed down over its chin and dripped onto the window. It bashed its fist into the window and pointed at the latch. I still shook my head no. A deep, bassy growl emitted from deep within its chest. It slammed both fists into my window over and over and pounded the glass so much that I was scared that the panes would shatter and let the creature in. The thrashing of the creature frightened me so much that I forgot to breathe. This thing who clearly wanted to hurt me for no reason that I could possibly think of was seconds away from getting in my room, and all I could do was stare. Then it stopped. Breathing deeply, it sat back a little and stared at me with such frightening eyes full of impatience. After a while, it grinned. By now, its lips were mere bloody strips of flesh flapping against its teeth, but I could tell it was grinning. Leaning down, it pressed its face against my window, leaving streaks of blood against the glass. It began to tap again. It was tapping out a heartbeat.
Little one, there is nowhere you can go where I cannot find you.
It spoke in a quiet, deep octave, words a little slurred from its ruined lips.
I am the one who takes. I adore those who live when they have no heart. Let me in.
Its eyes glowed in the moonlight, and I was helpless to look away, just as I was helpless to run.
Let me in.
I finally took my hand off my throat and opened the latch. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and I also wanted to thank STRL0011 for the wonderful story. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.